On October 11, 2015, a man named Jose Ferreira called a crisis hotline where he begins to confess about a murder he committed in the 1980s and expresses that the girl has been haunting him ever since. And it didn't end there. He also decided to call a reporter at WISN 12 News in Milwaukee and his wife. His wife would then report the confession to the police, and with no resistance, on October 13th, he would reveal everything to the West Milwaukee Police Station. Hello listeners, welcome to Dark and Divine Encounters. I'm your host, Denise Dodge, and in each episode, I will be guiding you through two real supernatural encounters, one eerie and the other hopefully more uplifting. Life is a mix of trials and triumphs, and I've seen the paranormal is no different. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and follow us on social media for updates. New episodes drop every Wednesday until the season ends. Please note, this podcast features stories of paranormal activity and true crime, and today's episode contains very graphic details and descriptions of events and incidents that are unsettling or triggering for many listeners. So please take the warning. It's a heavy episode today. Take care of your needs first and always. Have you ever considered haunting the people who have seriously done you wrong? How else could a spirit stand up for itself? For our dark segment, we are sharing a story about a man who was haunted to the point of confessing his bad deeds. This man was haunted for over 30 years. And for our divine segment, we're going to hear about a musical ghost that is playing music from the other side to this day. On October 11th of 2015, a man named Jose Ferreira called a crisis hotline where he begins to confess about a murder he committed in the 1980s and expresses that the girl has been haunting him ever since. And it didn't end there. He also decided to call a reporter at WISN 12 News in Milwaukee and his wife. His wife would then report the confession to the police, and with no resistance, on October 13th, he revealed everything to the West Milwaukee Police Station. On March 16th of 1982, Carrie Toussaint called local police to report her daughter Carrie Jopek missing. On that same day, she found out her 7th grade daughter had been suspended from the middle school for cutting classes repeatedly and had punched a boy for dumping paint on her brand new clothing. Her friend and her had matching outfits that day and were really excited about it. After the missing persons report, many people quickly assumed she was a runaway and was avoiding home due to the suspension. Her mom, Carolyn, shared in an interview that she didn't go physically pick up Carrie from school because she was a teenager, and Carolyn felt comfortable trusting her daughter to walk home on her own. The school was only a block or so from their home. After Carrie skipped school, though, she attended a party where a lot of other people her age were at. She was known to have a bit of a wild streak and a rebellious nature to her personality. Her friends also reported that she had no problem standing up for herself. She was not afraid to say no or draw clear lines in the sand. Many people reported who they saw Carrie talking to, but she talked to many different people that night. And no one saw her leave with any person in particular. In many of the witness reports, Jose Ferreira was listed as one of the people she was seen talking to, but no one was able to confirm or say for sure if it was him or if he was the one she left with. If anyone did know it was him, they didn't reveal it. Carrie's close friend and cousin, Tammy, was 9 when Carrie disappeared. She revealed that for weeks after Carrie's disappearance, Ferreira would visit and spend time with the family. She shared that he would be sitting at their kitchen table, consoling them, and would hint that he knew more but couldn't say anything because it would cost him his life. Ferrera would also be seen at the home where the party was hosted, but he would be there alone. He would be kneeling near the house. People noted that it was strange, but they weren't really sure if it was guilt or if it was grief. There were times when they saw him apologizing to Carrie and crying. 17 months after she went missing, a carpenter was working on the home where the party was hosted. He had taken the porch apart and began digging into the dirt. He got some of the dirt dug out when his shovel suddenly hit something hard, like a rock. And when he took a closer look, he noticed that the shovel and the dirt that it was picking up had a tremendous amount of human hair in it. The carpenter started to panic. He starts digging faster. And he pulls the dirt away to reveal a body. That day, they had found the remains of Carrie Jopek buried under the porch. Ferrera happened to be watching from a distance away, and he admitted to seeing the teenager who hosted the party vomiting after seeing the remains that the carpenter had found. At one point over the years, Ferrera's attorneys tried to establish a defense where they targeted the older brother of the teen who threw the house party. They were trying to pin the fault on anyone else, but it doesn't work out, thankfully. In 2015, Ferrera finally came forward and admitted what happened that day, and he shared how he supposedly accidentally killed her. Hey listeners, give me just a moment of your time so I can tell you about one of my affiliate sponsors. Are you ready to supercharge your mornings? Meet Grateful Earth Coffee, the coffee that not only wakes you up, but also powers up your brain. What's the secret? 6 amazing nootropics packed into every delicious cup. Nootropics are just like little brain boosters that enhance your focus, your memory, and your mental clarity. So imagine starting your day not with just a jolt of caffeine, but a super smart boost. Here's the lineup. There's lion's mane mushroom. Think of it as brain food promoting cognitive function and creativity. There's chaga mushroom, which is the ultimate immune system supporter. Cordyceps mushroom, which is for energy and stamina. Bacopa monnieri, which enhances memory and relaxation. L-theanine, which smooths out caffeine's edges for calm and focused energy. And our last but not least ingredient is ginkgo biloba, which boosts circulation to the brain and sharpens your mental edge. So start your day the smart way with Grateful Earth Coffee. Sip, savor, and get ready to conquer the day. By using my affiliate link in the video description to purchase your coffee, you'll help support my podcast and keep Dark and Divine Encounters thriving. Carrie lived with her mother and stepfather in Milwaukee. She was suspended from school and sent home. She lived a block away, but she did not go straight home. She detoured by stopping at a house party nearby. The party was at her friend's house in the neighborhood, and the party was being thrown by her friend Robin Mant and Robin's older brother, John Mant. The older brother, John, was present 17 months later when the carpenter was digging and uncovered the badly decomposing body. John immediately became sick to his stomach and began exhibiting shock symptoms. The skeletal remains were conveyed to the Milwaukee County Medical Examiner's office. They compared the body to dental records, x-rays, and other medical data and confirmed it was indeed Carrie Ann Jopek. They immediately notified Carrie's parents. When the skeletal remains were found, Raymond called the police to say that he saw Ferrera acting strangely in the backyard. He stood near the hole where the body was, and he began flinging his arms up and crying, saying sorry repeatedly. Because of this call, the police department questioned Ferrera, but he denied being involved in the disappearance. He just said he was grieving. The coroner's office did an examination and discovered intracranial hemorrhage due to the laceration of the left vertebral artery. These are big medical words, which means there was bleeding in the brain due to damage in her neck. The medical examiner shared that it was most likely a heavy item that was bashed up against the backside of her head. The evidence and leads that they had did not provide enough evidence to file any criminal charges. Carrie's death would be left unsolved for over 30 years. On October 11th of 2015, Ferrera's wife walked into the lobby of the West Milwaukee police station and explained that her husband told her earlier that day that he was responsible for the death of a female and that he buried her body under a porch, and doing this when he was 17 years old. The wife said that he claimed to have hit the female and caused her to fall down the stairs and break her neck. On that same day, October 11th of 2015, Ferrera called a crisis counselor at the Milwaukee County Behavioral Health Division and shared that he had met a girl at a house party. She somehow fell down the stairs, and he closed the door behind the both of them. After she fell, he admitted to holding the girl and being intimate with her. Afterwards, he buried the body under the porch. Ferrera vocalized and said, "I want this to be on the news and publicized," because he doesn't know if he wants to go out in a blaze of glory or silence. The police located him the next day and arrested him. This is when he told the police himself what he claimed to be the series of events that led to her death. He went to John Mant's party, and everyone there was skipping school that day. Ferrera was 17 at the time, and Carrie was either 12 or 13. He couldn't remember exactly how old she was. He said they were both drinking alcohol mixed with soda, and Carrie asked him for a cigarette, but he didn't have one. But he did have weed, and so he shared a joint with her. She coughed and then asked if he wanted to go down to the basement. Ferrera said yes, because he was wanting and hoping to make out with her. They crossed the door's threshold, heading towards the basement, but she stopped. And before they continued down the stairs, she said, "I don't know if this is a good idea." Unfortunately, Ferrera sternly said, "You are going downstairs," and then pushed her to keep moving. But her body fell backwards and she tumbled down the stairwell. Her body hit the railing and the wall, and then her back slammed down onto the basement floor. Ferrera said that he thought she was just knocked out and saw it as an opportunity, quote unquote, and said to her deceased body, "You are such a beautiful girl." Oh, it gives me the creeps. And then he became intimate with her, or was fondling her. He tried to pick her body up off the floor to do more with her, but that's when he realized that her neck was broken because her head was turned all the way around and facing the wrong way. This is when Ferrera decides to open the basement door, which leads into the exterior cellar door and has a space where you can access the underside of the porch. He took a small shovel and spent 45 minutes digging a hole and then placed her body into it. And he said that that is when he left. He noticed that some of her hair was sticking out of the ground, but he was in a rush and he was panicking, and he decided to just leave it. Immediately after this, he disappeared and just went home. As the day passed, people at the party asked him what happened to Carrie, and he just kept insisting that he didn't know. For the next 30 years, Carrie's spirit worked overtime haunting him. She haunted him endlessly until he couldn't take it anymore. He credits his decision to come clean with her haunting him. Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Jeffrey Conan imposed a maximum of 5 years on the attempted sexual assault and 2 years on the false imprisonment, which is to be served consecutively. It comes out to 7 years. Multiple people were very upset with the decision and felt like it wasn't. Many people felt like he needed to be served more years than just 7, but he did get served and he did get charged for what he did. Carrie's mom credits her daughter's spirit with solving her own crime. So back to my original question. Would you haunt the people who did you wrong? I would. You've just heard a chilling history of events that reminds us of the dark spiritual consequences of heinous acts like murder and sexual assault. It also teaches us you have the option to haunt your abuser if it causes your death. But here at Dark and Divine Encounter, we know that not all paranormal experiences are caused by evil like murder. Sometimes they bring the sound of music and a reminder that these spirits might be dead, but they deserve respect. So let's shift our focus from here. Our next story will further educate your spirit on the abilities of the afterlife and remind you that not all hauntings are rooted in guilt. Sometimes they're just rooted in music. It is very well known from the time of Homer to this very day that there is no ghost on this planet who can rest until they've been given a proper burial. It is common ghost lore that the unfortunate souls who were not given a proper burial are often doomed to haunt the globe until they are given the peace of mind and put into a proper grave. There are even some unfortunate incidents where ghosts have continued haunting even after being given the proper burial. Some believe they remain due to unresolved emotions and trauma, unfinished business or attachments to a location, or sometimes objects. Sometimes it's lingering energy from the deceased person playing on repeat, often called residual hauntings. There is a home in Demopolis, Alabama called Gaineswood, and it was built by General Nathan B. Whitfield in 1842. And this home has a ghost suffering from this very dilemma. The home was named after a friend of General Whitfield, a U.S. Indian agent to the Choctaw. His name was George Strother Gaines. He had lived on the property for quite some time while it was being built. Unfortunately, he was one of the men responsible for the forceful movement of Native people during the Trail of Tears, which was yet to happen during the building of this home. If there was a magnificent home to haunt in the afterlife, this is a beautiful one to haunt. Gaineswood is a neoclassical mansion with 12 Doric columns on the front patio, a delicately designed Corinthian drawing room, and the entire property is filled with Chippendale furniture. Side note, Chippendale furniture is a style of furniture that originated in 18th century Europe. It's characterized by its blend of Rococo, Chinese, and Gothic design elements. So if you're an art history nerd, you really love furniture design, there's beautiful pieces in this property, and you can go tour it to this day. It took a total of 18 years for this man to complete building the property. Not long after the mansion was completed, Mrs. Whitfield passed away, which left the general alone with several children. He ended up hiring a live-in nanny and housekeeper, her name was Miss Carter, to take over the house duties and care for the children. Miss Carter's nearest relatives were in Virginia, which is far away from Alabama, and would take a long time for them at the time, especially to visit. So the general became aware of Miss Carter's loneliness and decided to allow for her sister Evelyn to come spend the coming winter season with her. Evelyn was a musician and she loved to play the piano. The general would often play an instrument right alongside her. His favorites to listen to her play were the martial tunes of Scotland or Irish folk music, depending on the source. I was not able to pin that down, but he really loved either Scottish or Irish music. And sometimes he would play a bagpipe during their duets. Because of the bagpipe, I'm leaning towards Scottish music, but I didn't want to dismiss the Irish folk music because that might be the truth. We're not really sure. But nonetheless, their glorious music filled the halls of the mansion, and it brought a really lovely sound to the space. It poured out into the countryside around the mansion. Evelyn brought the home so much joy, especially after the tragedy of losing Mrs. Whitfield. Despite the severe winter weather engulfing the property, everyone was feeling content with their life, at least for the moment. Until one day, Evelyn became sick. After several weeks of trying to treat her and care for her and help her heal, she unfortunately passed away. There's no good record of what exactly caused her to pass, but some of the presumptions made were malaria or pneumonia, and some even said that it was a broken heart that caused her to pass. A young French count had recently visited Demopolis to see his relatives, and his relatives lived in the area due to being Napoleonic exiles. This French count showed an interest in Evelyn. There was a rumor that he proposed to her and presented her with a ring, but somehow they ended up in a big verbal quarrel. Hey listeners, whether you're jetting off to explore a new city or rediscovering the hidden gems in your own backyard, I've got the perfect tip for you. Check out Viator. They are a TripAdvisor company, and they offer amazing deals on tickets to experiences, attractions, landmarks, and activities all over the globe. So imagine snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef, touring historic castles in Europe, or even taking a thrilling ghost tour right here at home. Viator has it all, and at reduced prices. So you might even find tickets to visit the incredible places that we talk about right here on Dark and Divine Encounters. So why wait? Dive into your next adventure with Viator and make every trip unforgettable. Click my affiliate link in the show notes to get started and support Dark and Divine Encounters while you're at it. Happy exploring! A young French count had recently visited Demopolis to see his relatives, and his relatives lived there because they were Napoleonic exiles. The French count showed an interest in Evelyn, and there was a rumor that he proposed to her and presented a ring, but the entire incident ended up in a big verbal quarrel. He became so frustrated with her that he snatched the ring back away from her, he hurled it into the shrubs, and then he left and never returned. Many people said that she grieved this loss so heavily that it caused her death. The roads were covered with snow and ice, and during the late 1800s, that meant that it was impossible to have her body transferred to Virginia as she had requested. On top of that, it would be a significant amount of time before her father would be home. Her father was in Greece, and back then, traveling from Greece back to America was a very big endeavor, so it would be quite some time before they could really fulfill how she wanted to go. Another one of her requests was to call for her father to be present for that funeral. So even if they could find her a burial plot and get her back to her home in Virginia, she did not want anything moving forward until her father was there. So because of the weather and because of her requests, they decided to make the very difficult decision to postpone her burial until the springtime. During this time in history, there were no embalmers near Gaineswood, so what they decided to do was place her body in a very heavy pine box, and then they sealed it with rosin. Then they placed the box under the cellar stairs. The area under the cellar stairs were very dark, and it was very cold. Evelyn's spirit very soon after revealed that she had absolutely no interest in being kept in that box or being hidden in that cold, dark cellar. It did not take long for people to begin hearing footsteps coming up the cellar stairs. And within days, it increased from the stairs to the sounds of tiptoeing across the mansion into the drawing room where her piano was, where she would play regularly during her time there. And it was only days yet again when the activity intensified further, and it was no longer just footsteps or tiptoeing. Randomly in the home, you'd hear the faint sound of a piano key being pressed. The sound would float into the halls and up into the bedrooms. But then it wasn't just a piano key. It became multiple piano keys until eventually the pressing of piano keys organized into a recognizable song, and those songs were often the ballads that she would play with the general. Mixed in with these songs, they noticed the sounds of homesick melodies that reminded the listener that she was not happy. Anytime the members of the families would sneak downstairs to try and get a glimpse of her spirit playing, the music would abruptly stop. And when their head turned the corner, there was nothing there. No one. Just an empty room with furniture. No people. The remainder of their winter was filled with the sounds of both joyful and sorrowful piano music, all mixed in with the sounds of footsteps, breaking it all up and down the stairs and across the halls and through the rooms. It would go on and on and on, and throughout the days and the nights, the family was haunted. They could not get any rest. They dreamed of the day that they could get her pine casket delivered to Virginia and reunited with her father. They knew she wasn't happy. They vocalized it. They could hear it, but there was nothing they could do about it. Unfortunately, the piano and footsteps did not stop. Transferring her body did nothing to stop the haunting. The frequency slowed down, but the family felt the emotions of resentment and frustration. They felt her spirit was unhappy at how slow they were to getting her body returned, and their decisions to try and avoid and ignore the incessant piano playing and the stomping around. She continued to haunt the property and the family. Anytime in the past a person had the opportunity to rest at Gaineswood, they had reported having their dreams interrupted by the sounds of footsteps and piano playing. Everyone who works at the property or visits the property has no doubt that it is Evelyn Carter's spirit still protesting. Nowadays, it's a museum dedicated to preserving the history of this time period. If any of you have visited this property, seen Gaineswood, I'd love to hear what your experience was like. And did you happen to hear any piano playing? We want to hear your own paranormal experiences. Send your experiences our way and you might hear them featured in an upcoming episode. You can also reach out via email, social media, or through our website. If you'd like to buy me a cup of coffee, my donation links are in the show description, along with a link to show notes if you'd like to know more about the details around today's topic. Your support helps us keep exploring real paranormal encounters together. And that brings us to the end of this episode today. Thank you for listening to Dark and Divine Encounters. Until next time, tread lightly but fearlessly.